Dear church, let's talk about Christian education. Hello and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got my guest, Kirk Wade, with me. Kirk is a friend, church member. He's also superintendent of schools at Abilene Christian here in town. Some people may not know we have Abilene Christian University here in Abilene, but we also have Abilene Christian Schools. Tell us a little bit about how that all started. And for what I understand, it used to be on the same campus.
That's correct. If you go back to the very beginning, 1906, the gentleman that started the school had elementary school age kids at that time, and so he wanted a Christian education for his children, and so Abilene Christian School actually started in 1906 with his kids, with the vision that as they got older, he would work to create a university, and that's where ACC and then ACU came from. But at the earliest beginnings, Abilene Christian School was there with plans for the university. So
and under their oversight,
under their auspices, the ACU board for a long time controlled the school. The school was on campus there, mainly in the Zona Luce building, which is now the nursing building there. Had use of the facilities, ate lunch in the bean with college kids, and then in the mid 1980s, as the university began to grow, they began to look at options for utilizing their campus, and so in 1985, discussions began with ACU board members, with the school administrators, and then those that the school that were involved in the school to branch out and to let go of the school. And so that's essentially what happened. In 1986, ACU donated approximately 33 acres just north of Ambler there, between Ambler and the interstate. Helped them raise a little bit of money and build what is the current campus today. And so at that time, the Abilene Christian School was independent of the university and has been ever since. So we have our own board of trustees. We still relish our partnership with the university on a couple of things, but we are, it's a big misconception in town, even after this long, that we have our own leadership and we don't belong to the university.
Yeah, so you don't operate under their oversight any longer?
No, sir, we don't.
Yeah. No. So how long have you been at ACSM?
This is my ninth year.
You came from Dallas Christian?
I came from Dallas Christian. I was upper school principal at Dallas Christian, and my wife Laura is from Abilene, and we met at ACU, and we were looking to slow down a little and get
out of the metroplex.
We really were, and I was born and raised there, but I was ready for something different, and a couple of people that are actually Dallas Christian graduates that were here and really involved in the school. When they heard about the opening, they contacted me, and the rest is history. I was fortunate to be given the
I know they're
role.
fortunate to have you. Talk a little bit about your kind of strategy, because I know that as superintendent of schools, a big part of your that's under the umbrella of all the duties that you do. One of them is fundraising, and because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here is I served in public education on the school board at Wiley, which is here in Abilene, and so I thought we might discuss some of the differences between the two. And in the public school system, obviously, you have three sources of income. You have the federal, the state, the local level. But you guys, you're on your own to come up with funding.
We are.
I guess that's probably the major responsibility that you have. But talk a little bit about your strategy and kind of what it looks like to be a superintendent of a Christian school as opposed to a public school.
So you mentioned funding, and one of the things that private Christian schools are very wary of is federal, state, and local overreach into what we're doing. And so as a result of that, we don't take any funding from the federal government or state governments that would open us up to, hey, if you're going to take this, then that means you have to follow these rules. And so we, for most private Christian schools in the state of Texas, and I would say in the South, tuition, you're the money that our parents pay. Right. It turns the lights on. It pays our teachers. It puts gas in our buses. And just like public schools, when you take the Wiley, even though we're totally different, take the Wiley ISD school budget. Well, 70 to 80% of that is that entire budget is
spent before you.
Well, it is, and it's spent on staff. It's salaries for staff, and so we're very similar. 70% or so of our of the tuition that the money that we collect goes straight to salaries. Yeah. And most private schools, I cannot balance a budget just on tuition. I have to count on fundraising to bridge that gap. And so we're very fortunate that there are people that love Christian education, that love ACS. We have an annual auction every year that helps with our budget. It helps. It helps go to financial aid to help students and families come to the school. So we work really hard to be as efficient as possible, and a lot of times it's asking our teachers and our coaches to work with less, as far as resources in the classroom and this and that, because we don't collect ADA, we don't collect federal dollars, and so it's a big challenge to raise money. I'll say this: it has been an eye opener to me. It's an even bigger challenge to raise money in the shadow of the university.
Really?
Because so many people in town love to give the university, and we have so many of our graduates go to ACU, right. And by the time they're my age, while they may have loved their elementary and secondary time at ACS, it's just I don't know. They would rather give to the university than to their high school.
That's interesting. I would have thought about that. So how do you strike that balance of not pricing yourself out of getting students, but also having enough to cover those expenses? Because that is always one of the things that you just hear among people is choosing public education over Christian education sometimes is because the cost. Right.
Right.
So how do you balance that?
Well, it's very tricky.
It is.
I believe, in Dallas, I think we probably went too far. We priced the middle class family out in Dallas, and that is one thing that's always been at the forefront of my mind. The middle class family is the backbone of our schools and of our community. Yes. And so we actually, when I arrived 9 years ago, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to do a survey. I wanted to know what the perception of the school was. Mm-hmm. I tell this story all the time. When you're at a school for so long, 90% of my wardrobe had Dallas Christian or had Chargers on. I had to give all that away when I left, and so I had a couple T-shirts made with Panthers on them, just so I could wear doing yard work and around during the summer. And I'm at Lowe's one day, not long after I've gotten here, and here on the north side, right by our campus, and I'm talking to a guy that's about my age, and he said, "Hey, you're a Carolina fan?" And I said, "No." I said, I'm an Abilene Christian." I said, "We're the Panthers." He goes, "I thought they were the Wildcats." And I said, "I'm sorry. I'm at the K through 12 campus right here." And he goes, "I didn't know there was a K through 12 campus here."
Yeah.
And so I said, "You grew up in Abilene?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "So you have school age kids?" He goes, "Yes, sir." I said, "And you didn't know there was a K through 12 private school here in town?" And he goes, "I sure didn't." And so there's so many perceptions that it's tied to ACU. It's only for ACU professor kids. It's only for this. It's only for Church of Christ families. It's only, it's this and that. And so we spent quite a amount of money and partnered with a firm and did some research on what perceptions were,
Marketing,
those kind of things. One of the things I figured out real quick is one of the reasons people didn't know who we were is because we weren't sending a consistent message into the community. There was no branding at the school, and so I worked real hard with a friend of mine, and we branded the school. We have an academic logo, we have athletic logos, and you don't, if you do anything, you do it with those logos, and so. Another piece to that is uniforms. We went to school uniforms in my second year here, and there's a lot of great reasons to do that. Yes. Safety and security is one. I can step out in a passing period and identify someone that doesn't belong in our school, on our campus, just like that, because
good point.
Because we're all dressed the same. It eliminates a lot of social pressures that exist when everybody's wearing the same stuff. You don't even think about it. It takes that away. But one of the things I told our board is I said, we have great kids, and these kids need to be in our community. And when families see our kids doing, good things and acting right, and, part of that uniform, they're going to ask, hey, where do you guys go?
Yeah.
Well, I go to Abilene Christian. And maybe that's going to make them want to look into what's going on over there. So to get back to your original question, one of the things that we found out is there were a lot of people that were interested that they just couldn't. The cost was a key inhibitor for them going any more forward. So we sat down and we looked at median income. We took all that data and I basically at board meetings for about a year and a half just said, hey, we've got to go down on tuition on the elementary side. And so, Chris, we have.
Yeah, because you were telling me one time that when you first got into it, you noticed that you had such a drop off after that.
After pre-K.
After pre-K.
Yeah.
That's it. I was going to say kindergarten, but after pre-K, because the tuition jumped?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have, I'll argue with anybody, we have the best preschool program in
town.
And so we have 60 pre-K kids. Those slots are typically filled up less than 30 days after we open enrollment in March every year. We already have tours set up, in February for the upcoming year. And as I got to know people, I started talking to them and I said, hey, I know you've had a good experience here, but I noticed that you didn't re-enroll for kindergarten.
Yeah.
And across the board, it was cost. We love the school. We love the experience. But it was about a $3,000 jump between kindergarten and pre-K, our pre-K program.
Okay.
And so that's when we started going back to the board. Or I started going back and just said, listen, I think we're really in a position to grow if we make some changes. And so approximately 5 years ago, we announced that we went down. We tiered our tuition on the elementary, which helped. It was just a flat rate for kindergarten through fifth grade.
Okay.
We tiered it. And we made that jump much more palatable from pre-K to kindergarten.
And you've seen results?
And we've seen big time results. And so the school historically has always been a one section school. We have two sections now in our elementary. Right. And we are making plans on how to address that growth as it comes up through our secondary.
That's fantastic. Do you think the growth has by the way, how many kids enrolled at ACS?
We have approximately 425.
425.
Yes,
is that
sir.
Pre-K or
That's
kindergarten?
Pre-K through 12.
Do you think the growth in enrollment is related to all the talking that's going on in public school settings about the bathrooms issue, the transgender issue, those kind of things? Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think it does.
Okay.
I don't think it's a big part. I think it's a key factor. We for so many private schools, Christian schools, academically, the idea has been, let's just be good enough. Yeah. Because we offer the Christian component, and that's what people want.
Right.
And I credit our administrators, Kay Robbins, our director of curriculum and instruction. She's been there 30 plus years. Right. She, the attitude has always been, how can we get better? Right. And so one of the components of this is that we strive to be excellent academically.
Yes.
It's not just good enough because we're a Christian school to be good enough. We strive to be excellent academic. So I think we're putting out a great academic program.
I think you are.
And then I tell people all the time, it's our job at ACS to partner with you and whatever church you go to, whatever local church you're at, to be that third wall, that third area where we're reinforcing what you're teaching, the values you're teaching at home and the values that they're teaching at your church. That's what we want to reinforce those values and help you raise your children. We want to raise the next generation of kingdom leaders. And we want to do it with an excellent education and fine arts offering as you get older, sports, athletics, fine arts. We want to educate the whole child.
And that's great that you say that, because that is something that has always been historically, a knock, I guess you could say, on Christian education, is that, what you're paying for is that environment and raising your child in it's the reason why I wanted my kids to go to Freed, Hardeman, or Harding, is because I knew that spiritually they were going to get something they wouldn't get at a lot of places. Correct. But I guess the downside was, they weren't as strong in other areas, couldn't offer other things. I know that's different at ACS, and I think it's kind of, I've noticed that in Texas, it's a little different than where I've been in other places. So that's really critical, because now you're getting the best of both worlds. And for folks who may not be in the Abilene area, ACS has always been competitive in sports. They've won several state championships in the 13 years I've been in here. So, I mean, you've got that on your side as well. So you look at it as a viable option of, I'm not real comfortable with some of the decisions that are happening at the public school level. And so maybe want to give my kids a different environment and not have to worry about some of the things that are being taught.
Our theater program is fantastic. We held a huge musical at the Paramount last year. We have quite a bit of offerings that the public schools do. We just can't compete in some of the, I can't offer a symphonic band, and our band isn't just, we're not 300 strong and marching at halftime and doing some of those things just because of the numbers. So while it's available, sometimes we just can't compete, based on numbers and those things. But it's funny, we probably at our school, the conversation is, hey, you're doing too much. You might want to think about cutting out one of your extracurricular activities because it's impacting, this or that, or your academic or whatever. We want you to come over and we want you to be involved. I mean, part of the great thing about going to school our size is we don't be a wallflower. Don't come at 8 and leave at 3:30. Come at 8 and be invested in it and participate in as much as you want. And it's a huge benefit. There's a place, we like to say there's a place for everyone at ACS. Because you can be involved in so much. So.
And you are involved in other things. You're not just the superintendent. You're also the defensive coordinator for the football team.
Well, after some of these games where we give up a bunch of points, I've been threatened to get fired. But I've coached football for so long, and it's a great way for me to be involved with the kids. And so one of my concerns is I got into teaching and coaching because I love kids and I want to be around kids. And so as I've moved up through the administrative ranks, I've had to be intentional on how to maintain that. I didn't start in my education career in 1995 with the idea that I wanted to be a superintendent of schools. I wanted to be a head football coach and athletic director at Dallas Christian, where I graduated from. And so I try to be intentional. And so I'm involved in the football program. A couple years ago, I coached middle school girls basketball. I coached girls basketball for a long time before I went into administration. I drive a bus, I laugh. I tell people part of the reason I got this job is because I had a CDL. They needed help driving kids. And
that's a big thing now.
It is. So my favorite part of the school day, every morning I stand outside. And so if you've ever been on our campus, we don't bus because we're a private school. So it's drop off and everybody comes in at the same access point and exits at the same access point. And so every morning at 7:45, I stand out with our secondary principal, Van Gravett, and we talk to kids as they come up, and
that's awesome.
And then at 8:00 when the bell rings, I move down to the elementary side for about 20 or 25 minutes, and I high five kids. I get hugs and high fives, all kinds of things. You get grunts and acknowledgments on the secondary side, but you get hugs and high fives on the elementary side, and I can probably call 80 to 85% of the kids on our campus by name.
Yes.
Because I love being around them. I love going in the lunchroom at cafeteria and talking to them. And, but you name it. We, when a small school, you wear a lot of hats. So we mow during the summer. I'm edge and weed eat on the weekends up there. And, but boy, I sure love, it's just all a part of the ministry.
That was going to be my next question. If you could boil it all down, what do you love most? I mean, what's the best part about it?
That's it. Just being around the kids. I tell people all the time, I laugh when I say it, but after about, from 7:45 to 8:30 is the best. The rest of my day goes downhill after that. It's just been such a great morning talking to kids and just seeing their excitement. It just makes me excited to come to work every day.
Absolutely.
So, I've always said any great educator coach it's all about the kids.
Absolutely.
And so that's my favorite part is being with those kids.
I know on the school board when we look at hiring, a band director, a coach, or whatever, teacher, whatever. I mean, one of the things that we always say is we want a kid magnet. Right. We want, in church, a youth minister. And funny, our youth minister, you knew growing up because y'all attended the same church in the Metroplex.
That's right.
But Luke, he's a kid magnet. And that's what we've always said. We want kid magnets. And I think you are definitely a kid magnet. That's what makes you good at your job. I'm going to bring up the ugly word COVID. That did a number on us in the public school setting. We had a big debate over masks or no masks. Of course, the governor helped us out a little bit on that both ways. At first masks were mandated in public schools. Then it was mandated in Texas. You couldn't mandate masks.
Right.
So it seemed like everywhere you turned, you were making the wrong decision based on some camp. What about you guys? How did y'all navigate COVID? Did you go to online? Did you do virtual? How did you manage that?
We did in the spring of 2020. We followed suit and went online, and it was a tremendous challenge for everyone. Mm-hmm. It is magnified when parents are paying for education. And so we met as a staff and I basically said, let us know what you need to continue to teach. We cannot, because private schools, anything you pay for, people are looking for a return on their investment. And so we couldn't just shut it down and say, hey, here's a packet of worksheets, turn these in at the end of the year and you're going to go on. And so we upgraded our technology. We did things everybody had to do. We upgraded our technology, and our teachers responded big time. We recorded lessons. We did, all kinds of Zoom meetings, and it was a tremendous challenge for our teachers. And I felt bad for them because it was a lot of these teachers are used to standing in front of kids, and they're not comfortable with technology, and so it was a challenge to them. And
it's upheaval, isn't it?
And for some of them, that was it. I know. People that I've worked with all over the state, they hung it up after that year. That was more than they could do. And so
how much do you look to the other schools in our community as far as those decisions, whether to close if there's bad weather, all that? Do you have a working relationship with the other schools to kind of decide those things?
I do. David and Joey have been very kind to me. What I understood to be true before is that there wasn't much of a partnership. And so I've just worked hard to get to know both of those guys. We're all in the same job. We're educating kids. And so I pay attention to what they're doing. Dr. Young was very gracious to me to invite me to several of his meetings with his top staff, with Dr. Wiley as in the spring of 2020 when we were going through these things.
Yeah.
And so I pay close attention to what they do, but I also we also have to tailor decisions for districts with 17,000 students don't fit a campus with 425.
Right.
And so what we try to do was take what we felt like were best decisions for safety and health and balance those with with what was needed on our campus. And I've said a million times, I feel so sorry for David and Joey for, the decisions they've had to make.
Yes.
With so many kids and all these outside factors. And when you come onto our campus, it's us.
Right.
It's 425 of us, 55 full-time faculty and staff, and we're a family.
Yes.
I mean, we're a family.
And it's easy to get close to each other.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it's one of the things that people love about the community. Right. They love the community, and that's what draws a lot of people there. And so I listen to our community and to our people, and we made the decision pretty quick that we were coming back, that we were going in person, and we would do whatever it took to stay that way. Because like I said, people, they don't want to pay for an online education when I can get this, when I can get an online education from the district.
Yeah, they don't feel like they're getting the bang for their buck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It goes back to that return on investment.
Absolutely.
And so we said, can we do it safely? That was the thing. And so it's like anything else. When you put out something, when we put out our COVID plan, I talked to probably a dozen different doctors from doctors that are on our, that are parents at our school, to Cook Children's in Fort Worth, to you name it, trying to get input and then trying to decide what was best for our campus.
Right.
And we released that return to school protocol, and it's just like anywhere else. I got emails. I received emails saying, "Hey, thank you for doing this."
And you would.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that way. It's that way every time. And then the next email I opened was, "I can't believe you're doing this. You don't care about our kids. That you don't care about their safety."
Yes, I heard all that too.
And it's polarizing because we were on the lenient side when we came back in the fall of 20. Yeah. So most districts were requiring masks. We had situations where we didn't. Yeah. We were on the lenient side.
And my wife teaches at Abilene Christian, and their policy didn't match up. So if people assume that ACU is over you guys, then that's going to cause an issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we, like I said, though, we had to do what was best for our campus. And so we lost families because of that. And we picked families up because just for the same exact reason, because they didn't want to wear a mask all the time at school, and they didn't want to be told what to do. So, and I knew we would. It's such a polarizing.
It is. It's tribal. It's falling along political lines, and it's just become. But your decision making process was the same as ours. Is we've got to do, number one, what's best for these kids, and for our teachers and our staff, and we polled them. We got data from them, and it was overwhelming. This is what we want to do. Right. Before we let you go, Kurt, tell us a little bit about your family.
I'm married to Laura, and she grew up here in Abilene. Okay. She likes to say she was a Wiley grad when Wiley was out in the sticks. It was, cowboy boots, and she was actually she was on the 91 Bulldog State Championship team. She'll be quick to tell you that she was the 9th or 10th girl on that team, but she was on that team. Her dad, Jim, is a pathologist here in town, and her mom, Sue, was reeling ball before she passed away here in Abilene. Yeah. And so we have 4 kids. We have a son and daughter, Grant and Hallie, that are at Harding University. They're both graduates of ACS. And we have a son, Hudson, that passed away almost, it's approaching 6 years. So when he was a fifth grader at ACS, he was diagnosed with cancer, and we went to Cook Children's, and we spent 4 months there. And he actually had leukemia, and he had been declared cancer-free. But after the 4th round of chemo, he was immunocompromised, and he picked up a virus that he couldn't beat, and so we lost Hudson in February of 2016. He'd be a junior at ACS right now, and then our youngest daughter, who's the only one at home now, Caroline. She's a freshman, and she's has
a bubbly personality.
She has enough energy to for 2 or 3 people. So she keeps us on our toes.
She sure does. It's been great to have her around too, and it's been great having you guys with us. And let me ask you this. That wasn't the last question. This is the last question. What's your best commercial for ACS or for Christian education? Give it to us.
I tell my own kids this, so I would tell anybody else this. I don't care what you get your degree in. I don't care what you do, what you don't do. All I care about is that we're in heaven together one day.
Amen.
And at ACS, that's our goal, to partner with you, to partner with the local congregations, to raise the next generation of kingdom leaders, and so that we can reinforce what you're teaching at home about Christ, about the example that he laid before us, and how to be like him, how to love people like he did. And we're not perfect. That's it's not utopia over there. No. We have kids, and kids do things that kids do, and but we've got men and women over there that are standing in the gaps when that 16-year-old kid doesn't want to hear it from his dad.
Absolutely.
Doesn't want to hear it from his mom. Yeah. They're standing in the gaps preaching that same thing that mom and dad are.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's
nothing better than that.
It's a great place. I love going to work every day.
That's awesome. So, well, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy and eventful day to come and be with us. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you have a question for Kirk or me, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com. If it's specifically for Kirk, we'll make sure that he gets it, and I'm sure he'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much for tuning in. Spread the word about the podcast. We're on all the platforms, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all those. And thank you so much for watching, listening. Spread the word. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris.